From my Latinos Post days, immigration reform was a really popular topic, in 2013 anyway. So, first article, Immigration Reform News 2013, President Obama, organizations across the U.S. applaud passage of reform bill. Written by me, Barry Alyssa Johnson, first posted June 28, 2013 at 3:34 p.m. Proponents of immigration reform celebrated a historic victory on Thursday when the Senate successfully passed a comprehensive reform bill by a clear majority. Groups and organizations representing people from all walks of life, all across the country, are speaking out and voicing their approval and support for the legislation. According to a report from the Huffington Post, Vice President Joe Biden was present on the Senate floor as the vote took place, and he took the liberty of announcing the results. The bill passed 68-32 with all of the Senate's Democrats as well as 14 Republicans voting in favor. The bill was drafted by the bipartisan Gang of Eight, which includes Senators John McCain, Republican from Arizona, Marco Rubio, Republican, Florida, Lindsey Graham, Republican, South Carolina, Jeff Flake, Republican, Arizona, Chuck Schumer, Democrat, New York, Dick Durbin, Democrat, Illinois, Bob Menendez, Democrat, New Jersey, and Michael Bennet, Democrat, Colorado. It addresses undocumented immigrants, legal immigration, border security, employer hiring, and an entry-exit system, so the government knows if foreign nationals leave the country when their visas expire. While the bill has a great many dedicated supporters, it has also resulted in vehement opposition from some, including Senator Mike Lee, Republican, Utah, who insists that the bill is doomed to fail as it moves on to the House of Representatives. Quote, if this bill passes today, it will be all but relegated to the ash heap of history, as the House appears willing to tackle immigration reform the right way, Lee said prior to the vote. The sponsors of the bill had the best of intentions, but in my opinion, intentions aren't enough, end quote. Regardless of the opposition this immigration reform bill faces in the political sphere, organizations across the country representing groups of all kinds are cheering on its passage Friday. These groups are applauding the progress being made on the immigration front in this country and are speaking out to members of the House as the future of immigration reform comes to rest on their shoulders. Following are a number of remarks and responses that have been made by these increasingly vocal organizations and individuals. The Latino Coalition, or TLC, a nonprofit nationwide organization advocating for Latino-owned businesses, said, quote, the Gang of Eight has shown determination and leadership on an issue that will expand the flexibility of the nation's labor force and economic growth, said TLC Chairman Hector Barredo. However, significant work remains as the House of Representatives takes up this issue. Now is the time to come together, rise above partisanship, and send forward a comprehensive immigration reform bill for the President's approval, end quote. The League of United Latin American Citizens, LULAC, one of the country's largest and oldest civil rights organizations for the Hispanic community, quote, the GOP has reached a crossfork in their ideology where leadership must decide whether to be the party of immigration reform or the party that essentially signed away the Latino vote and severed ties with the Hispanic community, said LULAC Executive Director Brent Wilkes. NAFSA, or Association of International Educators, a leading professional association dedicated to international education. Quote, we won 2 victories today, and each is enormously significant for our country. First, we won immigration reform in the Senate, an objective that has eluded previous Congresses in this century. We've taken the crucial first step toward creating a way for millions of aspiring Americans to make this their legal home and become fully contributing citizens of this nation, said NAFSA Executive Director and CEO Marlene Johnson. Second, we have demonstrated that it is still possible for policymakers to come together in a bipartisan way and act constructively in the national interest when the stakes are highest, end quote. The National League of Cities, NLC, an organization dedicated to helping city leaders build better communities, which works with 19,000 cities and represents over 218 million Americans. Quote, the National League of Cities applauds today's Senate vote to pass historic immigration overhaul and legislation, said NLC President Marie Lopez Rogers. This legislation offers a common-sense solution to our broken structure and gives hope to city leaders across the country who every day must deal with the consequences of the current fragmented system. Today's vote affirms what our residents have been telling us. The time for reform is now, end quote. The U.S. Conference of Mayors, or USCM, a nonpartisan organization representing 1,295 cities across the country. Quote, the nation's mayors applaud the Senate's decisive passage of bipartisan leadership that will repair our broken immigration system, said USCM President Mesa, Arizona Mayor Scott Smith. The Senate bill is not perfect, but compromises rarely are. The important thing is that it is worthy of our heritage as a nation of immigrants and will help us move our economy forward, end quote. The Laborers International Union of North America, LIUNA, self-described as a 500,000 member powerhouse of workers who are proud to build America. Quote, we encourage the U.S. House of Representatives to support the Senate's framework for a balanced bipartisan solution to our nation's broken system, said LIUNA General President Terry O'Sullivan. It would be tragic to come this close to passing the most significant immigration reform measure in the past 30 years, only to see it collapse under the weight of unreasonable requirements or be transformed into nothing but a false promise for millions of aspiring citizens who love America, end quote. President Barack Obama, quote, today the United States Senate delivered for all American people, bringing us a critical step forward to fixing our broken immigration system once and for all, Obama said. If enacted, the Senate bill would modernize the legal immigration system so that it once again reflects our values as a nation and addresses the urgent needs of our time. We have a unique opportunity to fix our broken system in a way that upholds our traditions as a nation of laws and a nation of immigrants. We just need Congress to finish the job, end quote. Copyright 2015 Latinos Post. Immigration Reform News 2013. Bill O'Reilly publicly endorses reform bill. Written by me, Bariosa Johnson. First posted June 21st, 2013 at 4:07 p.m. Senator Marco Rubio and the Gang of Eight have garnered endorsement from a key name in the political game, Fox News host Bill O'Reilly. According to a report from Politico.com, O'Reilly announced his support for the sweeping overhaul in immigration reform in the United States just hours after Republican Senators John Hoeven, Republican North Dakota, and Bob Corker, Republican Tennessee, unveiled a major amendment regarding Border Patrol. Quote, it is time for the USA to pass immigration reform, O'Reilly said on his show Thursday night. He added that he hopes this bill does become law. It's not perfect, but it's the right thing to do, O'Reilly said. The talk show maven seemed supportive of the Hoeven-Corker Amendment, which would push up to $30 billion in manpower and technology in patrolling the U.S.-Mexican border as part of the larger push for broad immigration reform. O'Reilly said he believes the amendment will go a long way in making the border secure. TheHill.com reports that O'Reilly said immigration reform is quote-unquote politically necessary for the GOP, as the party has increasingly lost Latino votes in recent elections. Quote, the Republican Party has a lot to lose here, O'Reilly said. If it doesn't compromise, many Hispanic voters will reject the GOP entirely, pretty much dooming the party in the future, end quote. With the Hoeven-Corker Amendment, Republicans have stepped up their influence in the immigration reform debate. Senator Rubio says he supports the amendment and has said that he hopes it will solidify bipartisan support for overall legislation on the immigration reform issue. It's arguable that with Rubio's praise of the new amendment, along with O'Reilly's recent endorsement, the overwhelming reach could be critical in helping win the Republican support needed for successfully passing immigration reform when it comes to vote in the Senate. Copyright 2015, Latinos Post. Immigration Reform News 2013. Bill could save government billions. Written by me, Barissa Johnson. First posted June 19, 2013 at 3:49 p.m. A study released Tuesday by the Congressional Budget Office, CBO, may significantly help pass comprehensive immigration reform in the Senate. The United States government could save billions if the bill is approved, according to the CBO's report. According to the CBO report, immigration reform would reduce the U.S. deficit by nearly $1 trillion over the next 20 years. According to a report from TheWeek.com, the main cause for the savings would be a larger working population, with the increased workforce paying more in taxes than they receive in benefits. As currently written, the immigration reform bill would increase the United States population by $10.4 million. By 10.4 million over the next 10 years, while simultaneously lowering the deficit by $197 billion. Although the CBO report acknowledges that the federal government would need to increase spending by over $200 billion if the bill is passed, the bill would also bring in $459 billion in new revenue. Quote, that increase would stem largely from additional collections of income and payroll taxes, reflecting both an increase in the size of the United States labor force and changes in the legal status of some current workers, the CBO explained in its report. Yahoo News reports that demographics are a simple illustration of how the government could save money by taking in a host of new immigrants. The report showed this using a recent study by Harvard University and the City University of New York. In that study, it was found that between 2002 and 2009, citizen and non-citizen immigrants contributed $115 billion more to Medicare than they used. U.S.-born citizens, on the other hand, used $28 billion more than they contributed. This may have to do with age. The Yahoo News report shows that the ratio of working age to retirement age adults is much higher for immigrants, 6.5 to 1, than the U.S.-born, 4.7 to 1. Immigrants are also shown to have lower unemployment rates. Quote, all that means there are plenty of immigrant workers to pay into Medicare through payroll taxes, the article concludes. Quote, "This debunks the idea that immigration reform is anything other than a boon to our economy and robs the bill's opponents of one of their last remaining arguments," Senator Chuck Schumer, Democrat, New York, said in a statement of the CBO report. Copyright 2015 Latinos Post.